All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever wondered, is there a limit to forgiveness? How many times do you really have to forgive someone? Well, today, we're going to unpack a super powerful story that Jesus told to answer that exact question.
So it all kicked off when one of Jesus' best friends, a guy named Peter, came up to him with a question that, let's be honest, we've probably all thought about. He basically asked, hey, how many times do I have to forgive someone when they mess up? Is there a point where I can just say, enough is enough?
Okay, so back then, a lot of people were taught you only had to forgive someone maybe 3 times. So Peter, probably thinking he was being really generous, suggests, what about 7 times? That's more than double. But Jesus' answer, wow. He said 70 times 7. And no, he wasn't telling Peter to get out a calculator. What he meant was something way bigger. Our forgiveness shouldn't have a limit. We should never get tired of forgiving.
And to really paint a picture of what this kind of endless forgiveness looks like, Jesus told this incredible story. The story kicks off with a king who's going over his accounts. And he finds this one servant who owes him a huge amount of money. I mean, we're not talking about a credit card bill here. The amount was 10,000 talents, which was just an impossibly huge sum. It was more money than a person could ever hope to pay back in 100 lifetimes.
So you can imagine the servant was completely terrified. He knew there was no way he could pay it back. So he just falls down on his knees and begs the king, please, just give me more time. I promise I'll find a way to pay it all back.
And this is where the story takes its first amazing turn. The king, seeing how desperate the servant was, felt this incredible compassion for him. And he doesn't just give him more time, he does something unbelievable. He forgives the entire debt, wipes it all away. Gone. Just like that, the servant is totally and completely free.
So, you'd think this guy who was just shown this mind-blowing mercy would be the most grateful person on the planet, right? Well, hold on. Just moments after walking away from the king, he goes out and finds a fellow servant who owed him some money. And compared to his own debt, it was a tiny amount.
But instead of showing any kindness, he grabs the guy, gets right in his face, and starts yelling, "Pay me what you owe me!"
And get this, his fellow servant falls to his knees and begs for patience, using almost the exact same words he himself had just used with the king. But did it work? Nope. The unforgiving servant said no way and had the man thrown into prison over this tiny debt.
Okay, let's hit pause on the story for a second. Because to really understand the point Jesus is making, you have to see just how different these two debts actually were.
So first up, we've got that debt to the king, right? A staggering 10,000 talents.
And then you've got the other debt, the one owed by his friend, which was just 100 pence.
Now, those might just sound like old-timey words for money, right? But the actual difference in value, it is absolutely staggering.
I mean, just look at this. If the debt to the king was like a giant skyscraper, the other debt would be like a little ant on the sidewalk next to it. You can barely even see it. They're not even in the same universe.
Now, we're talking about a difference that's almost 1,000,000 to 1. Let me put it another way. It's like the king forgave a debt of $1,000,000, and then the servant turned around and refused to forgive a debt of just $1 single. That's how crazy this is.
Okay, so obviously this story isn't really about money and kings. Jesus was using it as a powerful picture to teach us something much deeper.
You see, in this story, the king is supposed to be like God. And that huge, impossible debt, that's like all the wrong things we do, our sins against God. And that incredible moment where the king just wipes the slate clean, well, that's God's amazing gift of forgiveness, something he offers freely to every single one of us.
So when the other servants saw this whole thing go down, they went and told the king. And the king called that unforgiving servant back in, and he asked him this really powerful question. He said, "Shouldn't you have had compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you?"
Well, the king was furious. He actually took back his forgiveness and had the servant punished. You see, by refusing to forgive that tiny $1 debt, the servant showed he never really understood or appreciated the $1,000,000 gift he'd been given. And because of that, he lost it.
So what does all this mean for us, right here, right now? How do we actually put this into practice? Let's get into the main takeaway.
The main point is this. The huge, incredible forgiveness God gives to us, that should be the measuring stick for the small forgiveness we show to other people.
And this is super important. We don't forgive other people so that God will forgive us like it's some kind of deal.
No, it's the other way around. Our willingness to forgive others is actually the proof that we've truly understood and accepted the incredible forgiveness God has already given us.
So here's a really simple way to think about it. Step 1. Just remember the huge grace God has shown you. Think about that $1 million debt. Step 2. When you do that, the wrong someone did to you starts to look pretty small in comparison, right? Like that $1 debt. And that leads to step 3. You can then freely give the same kind of forgiveness that you've so freely received.
And so this whole story leaves us with a really personal question to think about. Who in your life can you show this kind of forgiveness to today? Who can you treat with the same amazing compassion that God shows to you?